right, so this is another edition of One-on-One here on Metro TV from this region Accra, the Queer Wahima studio. I am Bright Nana Kwesi Amedin, and this is One-on-One. Today on the show, we are talking about the media, data collection, and a lot. Stay with us, don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us here on One-on-One. I'm still here in the studio with ODELIA Ntiamooah, the CEO for ON Media, and we are talking about data collection, everything data here in Ghana and across Africa. He tells media and the Bloomberg of Africa. Interesting one there. And thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you.
It has been quite an interesting conversation.
Yes, it has.
And enlightenment education, a lot in there.
Actually, I think that you have pulled a lot out of me than any other person.
Oh, I have.
So
Thank
far.
you. I'm grateful. let's now talk about individual.
Yes.
And how best we can capitalize on social media. Because now it's more like either you are creating skits, to get people watching you, and some money's coming in, or something else. As we speak, I know that the Ghana School of Law have instructed prospective students to submit their social media handles for monitoring. And I've been hearing that a lady has been dropped. She's really loud on Twitter, if I can say, and that she's been dropped due to some of the things she posts on social media and all that. How relevant are these things in our career building?
So one of the key things we collected also in the data, so the data is actually called the Ghana Digital Benchmark Report, and we're launching it on the 15th of November, which is just Tuesday. Now, the key thing we also collected was the activities of CEOs and MDs on their personal handles, which is either projecting themselves or projecting the brand. Our observation was that these CEOs, out of the 100 companies we looked at, it was only 40 that were somewhat serious about their digital activities on digital media, on social media. Then we dug in further and observed that out of the 40, the first 10 were actually the most serious. The first 10 were a mix, coming from media, but majority coming from telcos, and that is to be expected. So, for example,
why is that?
Yes, because
and why is that to be expected from telcos?
Yes, so then they understand technology already. You should be technological to even be there in the first place. I noticed that, for example, in the public sector, the person who was at number 4 is the Ghana Post CEO, Obo, who was my mate in university. And it's because he's young. He understands the digital space already. But if you are looking at people who are like 50 years and above, and these are the people who are currently CEOs, it is to be expected that they may not necessarily be as active.
Is this an indirect advice to companies to select more younger people to lead the company?
Oh, but
I'm just asking, no.
But digital media does not make the full operation of the company. It's a mix.
But it's a huge composite of it.
It is. In these purely digital era, it's very important, and companies should take it seriously. The other thing we observed amongst the CEOs is that, yes, majority of the top 10, or at least we had 3 telecommunication companies in the top 10. There was 1 education, 1 insurance, 1 banking in the space. But even the person from education also has a tech background, which is the CEO of Ashesi University, who is Microsoft trained, So you notice that the people within the tech space who are understand why this is important and why their executive visibility can actually benefit the business. There's so many people who are taking their space really, they're not taking it seriously. There was a young lady who called me recently and said, "Oh, Delia, I'm not making money." And she was talking plenty. So I said, "Okay, give me a minute." I want to go onto your social media page, because for you as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest things you need as an entrepreneur is to be able to quickly make money from digital, because you may not have the deep pockets to go and advertise on traditional media. When I went onto her page, it was a selfie of herself and her hair. And the caption had nothing important. So she's not taking on as a serious brand, and nobody wants to put money into this.
But should you consciously always make sure that whatever you are tweeting or posting is about your work? Is that supposed to be the target?
It doesn't have to be always about your work, but even me, even when I'm playing, I still connect it to my work.
Because people want to know the other side of your side, you being
yes,
in
but
the
I
brick
still
and mortar.
connect it to my work. So, for example, when I went on TikTok the first time, I was dancing Bounce It with my daughter, and I'm such a terrible dancer that everybody found my dance funny. I quickly connected it to working and playing.
A colleague said he will teach you how to dance.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm such a terrible dancer. So what I did was to quickly connect the information I was putting out there, because people don't know me as a dancing brand. So I quickly said, look, all work and no play. I need to play a bit to relax my mind and go back to work. And one of the best people to play with was my daughter. She was super excited that I've come back from work and I can dance with her. But for me, it was actually an opportunity to distress, freshen up, and go back. So in everything that you put there, remember that the internet does not lose its memory. It doesn't have dementia. So anything you put there can be used against you in future, in the law courts of the future. So be very careful. And especially when you're thinking of becoming a topmost brand executive or own a business, you've just got to be really conscious of how you treat your brand. And I'm not surprised that the law school is thinking of doing that, because there are reputational issues. And if people want the law school of Ghana to be well represented, they want to also be sure that people who are coming in or going to represent the legal brand are actually serious people, and they are well represented.
There's a school of thought that believes that one's personal life or private life, so to say, should not be mixed with their corporate lives. So if I'm enjoying my life somewhere in a club and I choose to take a video and post it on social media, that shouldn't conflict with what I do as a corporate person. Is that right? Or is that even good to say?
Actually, so you know that, for example, on LinkedIn, now any serious company doing recruitment will ask you to give them your LinkedIn URL. And you need to copy that and send.
That's your link, right?
Yes. You need to send that link to them. So if you have gone to the club and decided to post a picture there, it's your business. But note that if the recruiter chooses between you and the next person and your content on your page does not represent their brand, you are not in. Look, when I used to work in one of the media houses, which I resigned recently, I used to have the CEO call me and say, hey, ODELIA, how are you? I said, fine, sir. He said, okay, so that post you have posted about business, can you tweak it a bit? Because yes, you are talking business, but it doesn't sound so business. So can you tweak it a bit to make it business? And that is how serious brands should take even their staff.
You reflect
the brand. I spoke with certain banks and then they said, oh, we are actually not allowing, we don't care what team posts on their page so far as it doesn't say anything about our brand, but they are responsible for their individual brand. I said, no way. You should be caring, because once the person is asked on their social media handle, where do you work? And for example, they quote your company name there, whatever they are doing, if people are brand conscious, they'll begin to connect it to your brand. And we are getting there. as a corporate society in Ghana, and people have got to take it seriously. One observation we made from the report was that many companies didn't have their team members follow their pages, like and at least share, because sometimes you want to be very careful what they are commenting on, but they can like and share and put it on their pages. It just shows you how brands are really not taking the digital space seriously. Because
maybe it should be made part of the company's policy.
Yes, where I used to work, it was. You could not be a manager and not share your brand's
Work.
content. And when I got there, we had a few challenges with LinkedIn. And just this year, I said, we will open a new LinkedIn account and start a new LinkedIn content. And we started putting business content on the page. As it stands now, it's not at the end of the year. I even projected at the time that we will have about 10,000 followers on our page. It's difficult to gather followers on LinkedIn.
Yes.
But
Really is.
if you actually put out the best content, you will in no time. Listen, before half year, the company LinkedIn page which we created, and I promised management that by the end of the year, we would have 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. By mid-year, had 10,000 followers. As it stands currently, they have more than 15,000 followers. Yes. So the brands have got to take it seriously, and they've got to pull their team members in. It's got to be done in a coercive way. Your salary comes from Metro TV, right?
Yes.
If Metro TV succeeds, you succeed, right?
Exactly.
We are here because of Metro TV, right? So why haven't you posted anything about Metro TV today? Great. Once you start to conscientize team that it's digital first, and it's not just digital first for me, it is digital first for all of us as a company and the members within the company, people will. You don't have to force them, but you give them a reason why they would want to see that the brand exists beyond the current lifespan.
Maybe once we speak about having workers tweet or post about their companies on LinkedIn or any of the social media platforms, we should also be talking and thinking about education, because there have been times where people speak on behalf of the company, unauthorized.
Yes.
What are some of the consequences of that?
Yes, so I will take it from the perspective of policy. Every company that has any content sitting on social media should have a social media policy. Because from onboarding your team to wherever the company is currently, if you do not share the policy, you can have casualties. And I will still come back to the water company. I think they do not have a policy. And they had not chosen who can speak for the company. And even if they had chosen who can speak, they had not schooled the person on what to reply to and what not to reply to.
Because interestingly, people who work in media were speaking on behalf of the water
Company. Great.
I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Which became quite bad at the time.
So there has to be a policy. And if you are actually giving the operations of social media to someone else, you've got to give them the policy. This is how we want to run it, so that they understand. You've got to have a consistent meeting, because this is another community for your business altogether. There's a company that has as many as 9 million followers. Yet, when they post, it's 3, 4, 10 likes.
It's not captivating enough.
It is not enshrined in the company policy. The company team members are not sharing anything. Team members are not part. They just come to work and it's work as usual. Look, the brick and mortar is important, but we are really going digital. So if brands do not take these spaces seriously, I'm afraid of the surprises, because here is a case where if people post about a brand, where are you going to find the person?
Yeah, that's true.
If you reply and say, I remember there was a bank that my husband had issues with when he went into the banking hall. And he wrote such damning thing on LinkedIn for the bank, because obviously if you escalate this anywhere, it may not receive the quickest response. So people are seeing that digital media is becoming the place where they can play revenge, where they can actually get the attention of brands. And truly, when the information was put on his page, quickly the bank came. He didn't have less than 3 calls from the bank. 1, the teller who was rude, 2, the branch manager there, and 3, somebody from the head office. Does it have to get to that point? So we need to find a way of putting policy, putting crisis communication in place. It may sound far-fetched, may sound like, oh, we are going to invest in something that hasn't developed so much. But the Akan proverb says that if you see that your neighbor's beard is burning, you better fetch water and put it by your side, because it could be you next.
Now, let's talk about what just recently happened on Twitter. So, Ghanaian actress Leah Forsen tweeted, posing a question to the Bank of Ghana concerning government and individuals and companies trading with the dollar when it comes to dollarizing almost every single thing in the country.
True.
And she tweeted and she said, I'm going to keep tweeting until you respond. This is not really verbal, like that's what she said. I'm trying to paraphrase it. The Bank of Ghana came to respond.
Good.
The response from Bank of Ghana wasn't really what people were expecting. Maybe people were expecting it to be forthcoming with the answer or something, but it was a bit dodgy.
KG.
You get it? It's a bit like we are answering you, but we are not answering you in that sense. What does it say about a company like that?
You know, the Bank of Ghana has regulations, and they will play within their regulation. And some years back, you will not get the Bank of Ghana respond to anything to an individual. And that shows you why I think that businesses should take digital seriously. If the Bank of Ghana today will come and respond to people, it means that the Bank of Ghana is taking Twitter seriously. And we observe that from the report also, that public institutions were more visible on Twitter than on any other page. And it's understandable, because when they put information there, there's some level of quick responses which they get. And so they will prefer to put information there. So it just shows you that the Bank of Ghana is taking things seriously. To have a response like this is good. The Bank of Ghana now sees that the citizens are not just going to sit there and wait for MPC meeting where it is a monologue. They're just putting information out there, but the Bank of Ghana now will be questioned by ordinary citizens and people who have influence and feel that they can use their influence to cause change.
That's quite interesting. I want to not talk about the event on 15th, this Tuesday,
Yes.
this coming Tuesday. But before we do that, is there any other thing you want to talk about when it comes to data collection in Ghana and companies utilizing their pages?
It's amazing the kind of data that sits on social media. If you are a company who's been able to garner certain numbers on digital media, it could either be your website or your social media platforms, use that. Engage the people on your page, because it will get to a point where the people on your page become the direct people you will be dealing with in your business. Your customers will move from the brick and mortar building and come onto social media to engage you. And that is where you can, 1, collect information about your product, about your customer service, which you need to improve. I think that companies that have poor customer service within their spaces should use the opportunity to use digital to social media to correct some of the impressions people have about their brand. And one brand is doing that strongly on social media. I will not mention the name of the brand, but I was so impressed. When you go to their brick and mortar space, people are not happy with them at all.
social media.
But on social media, they will answer every question so swiftly. So they can use that to solve some of their poor customer service perceptions, because you have people within the demographics of 30 upwards now sitting on Facebook. Young people have moved to TikTok. You have demographics of 18 upwards sitting on Twitter. You have demographics of 25, 30 sitting on LinkedIn. So look, if you are able to target the demographics, how they would want to be fed with the kind of things you as a business is pushing out there, you do it for them.
Isn't that interesting? Thank you so much. Let's not talk about the event on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
Yes.
Tell me about it. What are you to expect?
So on Tuesday, it's called the Business Circle. Having worked within the media space for a long time, I'm on a constant basis getting phone calls from people. Hey, Odelia, can you connect me to this person? Can you do this for me? Can you make sure that I get this? Or do you have this person's contact? So I said, okay, then why don't we just put together a networking platform or a networking organization? We just call it the Business Circle. And everybody within the Business Circle knows that if they are looking for anybody in Ghana, within the corporate space or within the business space, they can reach out to somebody, or they can reach out to me, and I will connect them. So this will be the first one we're organizing for people within the corporate space to be able to network, and then move the networking from beyond that day to basically know that they have an institution that can support them to reach anybody that they are looking for to reach. So that's the Business Circle. Then on the night, we will launch this fantastic report, which you have made me give too much information about. So we will launch this. It's a 200-page report. And guess what? We have actually written a recommendation for every company. 100 companies have a recommendation for us on how they should move their activities on almost every platform.
Thank you so much. And it's called the launch of Ghana's Digital Media Benchmark Report.
Yes.
The theme is Digital Migration for Sustainable Business Growth Activities Report Launch, Productive B2B Network in Private Space. And the keynote speaker is Moses Baden. Guest speaker is Ebo Richardson, Chair Projects and Transformation Officer, Equity Group, Nairobi, Kenya, and also herself.
Myself, yes. I'll just be giving the data.
She represented to us the data on the day ODELIA Ntiamooah. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right.
I saw that on LinkedIn. I achieved that in. ODELIA Ntiamooah. She's the CEO for ON Media Global, Accra, Ghana. Such a delight to have you here on the show 101. I'm so glad that we did this.
Yes, actually it was interesting.
It was, and I enjoyed it. I hope you at home also did enjoy it. Trust me, it's been one interesting conversation here about social media. And we always keep talking about how best we can utilize it. You know, information never sleeps on social media. Whatever you post, one day come back to you. Now on Facebook, if you posted something 5 years ago, it comes back. Memory. Reminder, 5 years ago. I saw a picture of myself that I posted when I was in secondary school. I'm like, why did I post this? Can I have it deleted? Like, no, man, it's still memory. It's still good memory, so I left it on there. It's all good. So thank you so much for watching 101 here with me, Bright Nana Kwesi. My guest for the show today has been ODELIA Ntiamooah, the CEO for ON Media here in Accra, Ghana. Have a good night. All right, welcome back. So on the show with me here on 101 is ODELIA Ntiamooah, CEO for ON Media. And we are talking about data collection here in Ghana and also media. What exactly are we doing when it comes to data and how the usage even is like? Join us. And welcome to 101, ODELIA.
Thank you.
So happy to have you. I mean,
after a few...
Let's say a former journalist.
I know, I'm still a journalist. Once a journalist, always a journalist. Yes.
And it's exciting to know that I'm speaking to one of our own.
Yes.
Really happy about that.
Absolutely.
It's nice to have you here.
Nice to be here.
To 101.
Thank you.
Let's talk about data. You are doing that. You tell me of seeing that you are the Bulmek of Africa.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Great. So in April, I left the practice of journalism from the formal system to start a business called ON Media. And the main aim was just to collect data. And then, of course, I didn't want to just be seen as an agency that wanted to do the regular things. I wanted to be seen as a communication company that had a lot of strength when it comes to data collection. And so we went straight away into it. We started looking at companies in Ghana and how these companies were leaving footprints on the digital space. We then decided to just concentrate on social media and then, of course, do a little bit of website data collection. And we started off with 1,000 companies. And then we scaled it down to...
The start off was 1,000
1,000 companies.
That's a lot.
Yes, that's a lot of companies. Remember that in certain sectors of the economy, we have so many companies there. The hotels alone have close to 5,000 no-star to star hotels, about more than 5,000. And then also we have quite a number of insurance companies and all of that. So by the time you will glean through all of this, for you to be able to arrive at the data set that you have, then in the long run, you would have gone through a lot of companies. So we did about 1,000 of them. And then we just moved now to just 100 of the companies to be able to tell a story for businesses. And of course, for businesses to make the right kinds of decisions. So when we started collecting this data, we made several observations. One, we observed that when it comes to, for example, the media space, the media is actually very serious about not losing it completely. Traditional media houses like yourself, print and all of that would need to do a lot more than they are currently doing because of the competition on digital space. And so for them, they needed to do more than the rest of the companies who are still operating in brick and mortar spaces. And so for media, you found that the aggression was really there. One of the least posting media houses would have done in a day about 20 posts.
That's least.
That is the least. And on average, we're looking at 77 posts in a day, on average. So all the media houses, 10 media houses we took, were actually doing about 77. There was one company that was doing 146 posts, at least in a day.
Is that a media house?
Yes, it's also a media house.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And so for the data we have collected, just let's say, for example, in the media sector, should just tell you that if you're a media house and you're posting 15, 20 in a day, you're really lagging behind and you will need to push up. You need to work harder than you currently are because the average posts for your sector is 77. What is also, the media space actually told a lot of stories for businesses who would want to have, one, the kind of visibility, two, the kind of huge numbers that the media houses have. So for example, the media houses have as large as just 10 media houses, and they have about 35 million followers. That's larger than the population or the population of Ghana. Almost everybody is following all the media houses in Ghana, and that is huge. It is the largest in all of the data we collected. It just shows you that these people are doing something that is absolutely different. There was one media house, a group of companies, but one same...
Under one umbrella.
Under one umbrella that had as many as 6 brands in the media category. So we decided to find out what are they doing. And of course, they have something called the Digital First Agenda. And so if one company has decided to be deliberate, it just shows in the data how just being deliberate about your brand and projecting it and making sure that everything that you put on traditional media is there if they have been able to show that 6 businesses can actually be in one sector, then that is huge. So for the media, those are some of the things we found. Then we went to other sectors of the economy to find a bit more. So this is what we have been doing as a company.
But one will ask, why would you want to spend your time gathering data? For what reason exactly?
So I was just speaking with Dr. Japoma, who is the coordinator for Bloomberg in Ghana. You know, Bloomberg Philanthropy has a training program for journalists all over Africa. And I happen to be one beneficiary. And one of the key things that we got during that training was the opportunity, the rare opportunity, to be giving the Bloomberg terminal for 6 months. And the Bloomberg terminal is like crazy data collected on Africa, on the rest of the world. It even has, and has to the extent that if you wanted to send an email to Elon Musk today, it's on the Bloomberg terminal. You can just pick his email address from there and send him an email. So it has such huge data. After doing that training, I said, well, yes, data is being collected on Africa, but is it Africa owned? Is it homegrown? And when this data is even collected, is it available? Because the terminal costs as high as $12,000 at the time when we had the training. And so we would want to be able to do some homegrown data for homegrown businesses at an affordable cost, you know. So then that was the whole idea, to be able to gradually start a data-driven company for Africa, for Africans.
Before you even continue on, let's differentiate this from data when it comes to our right to information bill here in Ghana.
Yeah.
Is there a conflict, or what are the differences exactly?
Yeah, so this data collection is purely going into people's data that is already out there.
People's data?
Yes. So
are you talking of social media platforms?
yes. So we actually concentrated on 4 social media platforms. We looked at LinkedIn, we looked at Facebook, we looked at Twitter, and we looked at Instagram, because these are the most famous social media platforms that businesses started using. We didn't do TikTok because TikTok is new. Businesses haven't really understood and they haven't really latched on. Even on LinkedIn, you notice that a lot of businesses are not there. I'll tell you something. The media houses are not on LinkedIn.
But we know that LinkedIn is more business oriented.
Exactly. Yes. And so my expectation was that all these businesses will be on LinkedIn.
But it looks more like individual corporate persons who are on LinkedIn more than businesses itself.
No. So when you take a look at other businesses in other jurisdictions that have really understood the LinkedIn culture or what LinkedIn stands for, they are actually on LinkedIn strongly. A lot of companies now have recruitment opportunities and they put it on LinkedIn. Why would they go on LinkedIn if they don't think their talents sit on LinkedIn? So it is a huge place for data collection. Look, when we started doing this data collection, then I was speaking to another company that is into mobile data, and the gentleman was giving me information about one of the telcos, the fact that, so he asked me, do you see this so-and-so telco advertising again on billboards? I said, wait a minute, that's right, no billboard adverts. He says, because the telco has collected so much information, they know exactly where their customers sit and they meet them there.
Exactly.
And
so not to cut you, but then it takes me back to LinkedIn, where automatically I end up receiving messages from institutions, companies, and firms in my inbox. And I'm forced to respond to these messages.
Exactly.
And once you do that, you want to click on their page and go and look at what actually they do as a company.
Of course, because then if the company knows exactly where their target market sits, and that's what our data is for. We want these companies to know exactly where their target markets sit. So, for example, for financial institutions, the data is very clear. Harvard Business Review has the data sitting there. It's in all other serious research companies like McKinsey and all of that, who simply say that for financial institutions, you have no business not being on LinkedIn, because that is where people who have LSM 5 to 10 sit. That is live living standard measure. I mean, people who can afford your kind of services, they actually do not sit on certain platforms. Majority of those quality people you are looking for are sitting on LinkedIn. So if you're a financial institution, the first social media platform you should be looking at is your LinkedIn platform. Then you can look at Facebook. Facebook, for example, in fact, from LinkedIn, the next is Twitter, then Instagram, even before Facebook. Because remember that Facebook was, in the past, a combination of news feed and like TikTok. Then when TikTok came, everybody who was putting funny videos on Facebook now migrated to TikTok, where they know that that is where the playing goes on, or that is where they can put a certain volume of data on a consistent basis. And then they left the news feed purely now on Facebook. And so when you notice, almost all the media houses we ranked actually use Facebook because it is the news feed. It is the place where when people want to find news, they would quickly go to, and they know that they would find either the links of companies or the information will be sitting there. So basically, you need to find where exactly your customers sit. And I would say that one of the places we also noticed that brands were not communicating well was on Twitter. Twitter is a conversational social media platform.
If you say brands are not communicating well on Twitter, what do you, because we know even on Twitter, the number of words are all limited.
Yes. So Twitter is your conversational social media platform. If you dump hard news content, which will be acceptable on Facebook, on Twitter, you may not get any form of engagements or reactions. And so one, remember that Twitter is conversational. Twitter is your best place for giveaways. So if your company is thinking of doing some promotions and they want to do giveaways, Twitter is the best place. Twitter is also the best place for quizzes. So the company can come up with quizzes about their brands, and people who follow them will be able to answer those quizzes. Twitter is also a good place for mathematical quizzes. People are really interested in that a lot. And we observe that.
Here in Ghana?
Yes, we observe that.
Quizzes here in Ghana.
Yes.
Interested.
Yes. And we observe that companies that were using these strategies I'm talking about had huge engagements on Twitter, where the language is not formal. The language should be a bit informal. People should feel a bit free to be able to communicate. What we observed was that a lot of companies were cross-posting, that is, dumping information from Facebook and splashing it across the 4 platforms. And most of the time, this is because these companies have agencies who are doing the work for them. One, the agencies probably do not understand the business of the people they are doing the social media marketing for. And so the communication doesn't really have a soul. It's just dumping information.
But then communicating on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, what should be the difference?
You just need to understand the language that these platforms use. So for example, Facebook is a news feed. If anybody saw a story on traditional media, the next place they want to go and check whether this is really true is on Facebook. You will hardly find people going on Twitter or going on other platforms to go and find out. Facebook is the first place people will go to find the latest news or the latest information that is going on. Then on Twitter is your conversation place, where even when government news is broken, people know that they can have a conversation there. They know that big people will come onto that place either to defend themselves for a policy they have put out or to write about a latest policy they want to reach people quickly in the shortest possible time, because you know Twitter is really fast-paced, really fast. So if you're a company and you are posting, let's say, 2 items in a day, Gamma will say,
what should be the target of?
Yes, Twitter is really, really fast-paced. At least the company shouldn't do less than 10 And it's not that the companies don't have the
Does it include
information.
responses?
No, it doesn't. You have to just tweet. And there's so much that companies have that connects to people. You need to find out what are the pain points of the people I'm communicating with. If you find their pain points, you should be able to find solutions. For example, when the Ghana card issue came up, people linking Ghana card to their accounts, guess what? People kept going to the banks back and forth to ask them questions. Then there's I think it's a platform called Ghana Pay. That one too, everybody wanted the information. So then the companies need to find out what do people have issues with? How do we connect it with our brand to communicate? We noticed that a lot of the companies were doing hard selling, just putting things there and saying, yes, we are the brand, the go-to brand. But look, people won't go to your page to go and see that you are the go-to brand. They will go to your page to go and see how you can solve their problems first.
And most of these companies don't also reply to messages from their
Exactly.
customers.
Fantastic point. And we found it largely amongst the universities.
Universities?
Yes. So the universities are in the rankings. The universities do not reply, whether private or public. It was actually the most engaging platform we have was UPSA. UPSA was really engaging. They would reply at least a few messages.
With mentions?
Yes. But what we observed was that many of the universities never even answered simple questions like, when is school resuming?
What do you think is the reason why we have such limit when it comes to responding to requests or questions by customers and individuals?
I think that it is generally the fact that we are not a customer-centered economy. People can just do anything and get away with it. But digital is gradually paying people back. You remember there was a company that had huge issues with their water, and they've been paid very dearly. How many times have you seen that particular water around? It's because somebody from the team of the company responded in a way that a customer didn't like. And that is one of the reasons why we are doing this, that the customer is gradually moving onto digital platforms. And now the customer cannot be identified easily. You cannot know where the customer is. You cannot trace the customer easily. The customer is operating in a space where it is not regulated much. And so you better pay attention, otherwise they can really mess up your brand. And we noticed that a lot of the companies do not have crisis communication strategies seated there waiting for doomsday. And once they do not have that sitting in place, when there is doomsday, you see them fluffing all over the place.
But somebody will ask, why should I have a crisis management just seated and wait for something to happen before they react? Why should a company be doing that?
Yeah, I think that whether it is digital or not, every brand should have a crisis communication strategy sitting in place. They should know how and who will implement the crisis when it comes, who will answer the questions when it comes. I think that even companies should have some level of simulations and say that if X goes to Y, who is supposed to answer and how will the person answer these kinds of questions, so that if there is an issue that comes up, and I see that happening to certain institutions like in the banking space, where people were really angry that some of the banks will just not answer some simple things that they were asking them, and they actually did a lot of name calling on their pages, and it looks like they couldn't be bothered. And I'm like, wow, for a brand where reputation is very important, they should be really concerned. And these banks that we noticed had these challenges actually didn't make it to the top 10, which we selected for our top 100 companies.
And could it be that they've employed the wrong hands to operate such departments?
Like I said earlier, our observation was that for, I don't want to use the word serious, but for certain brands who have started seeing the need for digital, especially social media, have employed agencies, usually comms agencies, media agencies, to do their work for them. Also, it is very likely that these agencies also do the posting and don't follow up, or they are not part of the business, so they can't really reply. And because of the sensitive nature of the banking sector, they may not want to give answers which they don't have a strong hold on. So these were some of the recommendations we made, that these institutions should actually have weekly meetings. It doesn't have to be the whole management team. It can be just a select few who can coordinate with the agencies who do the posting on a regular basis. Let's find out when posts are put on the page and it concerns a certain brand, quickly, the selected people who are supposed to reply should reply. Look, I'll tell you, there's one bank whose name I will not mention, is doing it right. I went to the marketing manager's office in the bank, and what he was having was, I think, an iPhone, an iWatch, or whatever they call it, a watch, which belongs to the iPhone family. And what he was doing was, on a consistent basis, when anybody sends a comment on any of their platforms, it beeps on his phone or on his watch.
That's smart. I was about to ask you, wouldn't it be prudent to have a member of the organization join the agency who are doing the tweets or the Facebooking and all that?
Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. That there has to be this synergy, so that you know that whatever things are being posted on your page is actually being done well. And the responses are the key, because that is where the problems can start. When people are not satisfied, when people are simply not happy with the kind of answers that are going on. For certain institutions as sensitive as banks, I would recommend that they should have their own digital media department.
In-house.
In-house. And this digital media person should actually also sit in management. This person should sit in management because digital media, look, the least bank that we had about over 200,000 followers on Facebook alone. If you have even the customer base of the bank, will it reach 200,000? I'm sure the customer base for that particular bank will not reach 200,000. But you have a customer base of 200,000 on digital. It means that you need to pay attention. It may not necessarily be converting into cash, but remember that it's about reputation. If they say good stuff about the brand, it is good for the brand. So like media, when I used to be in media, we used to have certain programs we do just for brand building. Then we have programs for revenue. And then we have programs which had a mix of revenue and brand building. So these companies should be looking at the spaces which has huge numbers, which they can use for brand building, gradually see which of the digital media platforms they can convert into revenue. And I know the spaces they can be looking at to convert into revenue. LinkedIn. I got my first business from LinkedIn. Somebody actually gave me 60,000 Ghana cedis about 2 years, no, that was about 4 or 5 years ago, gave me 60,000 Ghana cedis on LinkedIn.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, the guy didn't know me.
For your first job?
Yes, he had never seen me face to face.
So
He had just seen me on TV.
What do you think did the trick for you? Maybe the TV might have helped.
Yes, of course. But I'm saying that, look, there's such a huge potential sitting on LinkedIn that people haven't milked, especially businesses. And it is your perfect place to find new recruits, perfect place to find clients, possible clients, perfect place to build the kind of networks for the kind of influence you're looking for.
That's interesting. Now, I would want you to speak about individual branding or individual pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the rest. And also, talk about CEOs who are now understanding the importance of social media, why they are even hiring people to manage the accounts for them. Okay, so I'm still here with ODELIA Ntiamoah. We are talking about data collection here in Ghana. Don't go anywhere. She also has some reports she'll be sharing with us. Stay with us. We'll be back in 101.